Hi, welcome back to Terminally
Bald.
Bald. It's our 10th episode, you guys.
I know. I
We're
can't believe
10
that.
years old.
10 years. If you do 10 episodes like for shows on TV, they're making a crap load of money.
Yeah, that's a whole series of shows.
I know.
But
we're not making any
we
money.
need to cheers. Yeah,
Cheers. Cheers, cheers, cheers.
But we always
Cheers.
talk about how we
I was
don't
just
get
over at my buddy
sponsorship.
Steve Bronstein. We're celebrating. So he gave me a non-alcoholic IPA with Sierra Nevada. Really good.
Yep.
But what are we celebrating?
You're done with your treatment, your radiation.
I'm so glad the chemo's over.
I know.
But anyway, I
It
feel
was really
good.
sweet.
I feel good tonight. I
I will
really
say I have my Barbie Stanley with me, and I'm drinking a ginger lime poppy. Thank you. In case anyone was concerned, my voice cracked a little bit.
That's nice.
But
Good
back to
stuff.
your radiation, it was so sweet. I took a picture of him and his radiation nurses who
Yep, I
helped him
posted
every
it.
day.
Yep.
He rang the bell.
Yep.
They let him keep his mask that's sitting over
Yep.
there.
Yep. All the
That
people.
looks very scary.
All the people were waiting in the waiting room, and I said, "We'll ring the bell. Hopefully, this treatment works. We won't know for 3 weeks, but
Right.
yay! No,
Still
they
exciting.
laughed.
It's exciting.
Yeah, they were sweet people.
Yeah, it was really sweat. They were
were.
talking to us for a little bit. They said they would subscribe to the podcast. So shout out if you guys are watching this.
Yes,
Um,
it was fun.
yeah, it was really sweet.
It was.
I got him some balloons and some cupcakes
You
because we need
did.
to celebrate the small
Because
wins.
you had to drive me to it every week for 6 weeks.
Yeah, well, that's
I-
not why I got the balloons. I still think
Yeah.
it's exciting that you're done with your first round
Oh
of
no,
radiation.
I
6
agree.
weeks.
I agree. It
You
was just
know?
interesting when you would drive me and I would get on you for ways you drive.
Yeah, I mean, I was always so tired when we drive, and I would just be like not in the mood to like chat. Like I would just want to listen to my music.
Yeah, I agree. So most
just
people don't
dri-
know this episode we're going to talk today is about my mortgage loan officer
Yeah,
career.
we're talking about his career.
It has been
Interesting.
an interesting 35 years of doing this. You know, most people retire at
crazy.
35, so I'm going to retire at 40 years. No, 30,
Wait.
34. No, excuse- 39 years.
Oh, okay.
If I retire at 65, like my goal is right now. But anyway, so it's been it's been a journey. I laugh sometimes because I think we told this story before of how I got into this at all. So we were young, we were married, we lived in our first house, and I was a DJ at Church Street Station. Things were going good. I was having fun. And,
We've heard some stories about
yeah.
that.
Well, your mom, Patty, got pregnant with B,
Uh-huh.
and she got pregnant. And of course, I get a call from Bud Palmer, my brother, and he lived in Tampa. And Bud was an owner of a mortgage broker shop over there. And he goes, Jackie, you don't need to be working in a bar anymore with a new baby around. Those late nights and being around beer, you need to stop that.
He's very right, and he was right for that.
He was right. I didn't argue with him. I said, okay, you're right. And so what we did the very first year, I still DJ'd at night, but I drove to Tampa every single day. And that was before the traffic in Tampa. From here to Tampa was
What?
awful.
Every day?
Every day. I drove to his office, and it was so cool because I would sit in his private office, and he would take loan applications from people. And I was learning by visually watching him. So the people would come in, and Bud would go, okay, this is one of my trainees, y'all, this is Jackie, da-da-da. And I went over there every single day for almost a year. And he actually fired me in a nice way. He goes, Jackie, listen, you've been working good for us. You made some money. We have no expenses due, blah, blah, blah. He said, I think now you need to be around other loan officers, and I'm going to give you a recommendation letter and go out and apply and see what you can do. So I looked up in the paper, and Princeton Financial was hiring a loan officer. I had a year experience, and they hired me. And this is really sad, but it was really funny. I didn't really know enough about being a loan officer, and I started working in the office. Had other loan officers working there, nice people. Joyce, oh my gosh, Joyce was the manager at the time. Nice lady. What was her name?
When
Last
was
name?
this?
In Kissimmee. I drove to Kissimmee every day. This was 35 years ago. 35. Well, excuse me.
Math.
Yeah, it was 1990, I think.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
Right. So
So
yeah.
how old were
it's
you?
35 years. How old was I?
Yeah.
I was, subtract 35 from
26?
61. So yeah, 26. So anyway, I get in there, and I didn't know, I didn't really know the exact details of taking a loan application and doing a mortgage, because we got paid 100% commission for closing the loan. And it was just crazy back then because there were so many brokers and lenders in there, and it was just a market that was kind of crazy. And I spent a lot of time just driving around real estate offices in Kissimmee, and just going in, walk in, hand them a flyer about rates and what we could do for them. And it was stressful because I didn't really know a lot about it. And Bud Palmer, bless him, got me into this. And really, we've been really fortunate. I've tried to treat people like I want to be treated, and really try to get their mortgages done. It's been a great ride overall. It's been stressful at times because we have to follow the market, up, down, rates, everything. It's a crazy time, but I've really enjoyed taking care of people that want to buy their houses. One thing I always think about, and I'm sure you heard this before with people, and it comes to business, they go, well, I treated it this way because it's a business attitude, a business direction. And I always thought that everything's personal. Doesn't matter. There's no such thing as business only. It's personal. And I think if you treat people that way and understand that, then they're going to be more trusting, and you're going to get things better done because they're going to really do the things you need to do because you're really wanting them to get in their new first house or their second house or whatever.
Right.
And you want to get on the best term and work things out, and it's a win-win for both of us. So, and like I said, trained under Bud Palmer. He let me go, and I went to Princeton Financial. I worked with Princeton a while, didn't really know what I was doing, and a lot of those guys were experienced. And believe it or not, I got fired from Princeton.
No way.
Yes, I got fired, and it's a crazy story, but to this day, I'm still going, man, because the owner of Princeton Financial was a Sigma Chi. And he found out I was a Sigma Chi, and we met.
You were
talked.
blood brothers.
Yeah,
you were bonded.
But he didn't. He
didn't care.
He didn't care.
He's like, this doesn't mean anything to me, though.
They hired some guy. What was his name? I'm not going to say names because I really didn't care for those guys. But I didn't hate them, but they were just.
It was your first job. I mean, technically, your first job was with Bud, but.
Yeah.
So you're saying he fired you because he was like, you need to get out there and do more?
No. I'll tell you why he fired me. So I had taken a loan application from a guy that was worked in Apopka as a fruit picker, and he was self-employed. I don't know. Anyway, he made the loan application. Back then, it was all physical. There was no online. You just gave them a piece of paper. They filled it out, signed the docs. You took it back to your processor, and they started the loan. And he'd given me tax returns that were by hand. They were filled out by hand, and loan turned into processing, got to underwriting. Underwriter up at Princeton was like, yeah, this doesn't look right. This just is like he made up this tax return. So they tried to call the place he worked for. He said, he gave me W-2s that were all handwritten. And the company didn't exist. The phone number they gave me was to a gas station in Miami at a payphone. But long story short, they called me up to the office because they thought I made up this stuff. I didn't even know how to do any of this.
What?
And I said, guys, y'all have lost your mind. I'm new. I don't really know. I wouldn't even know how to make a tax return legit. I didn't even know how to file a tax return.
Right.
But so I sat down with the manager and the guy that owned the place with Princeton. The guy was a Sigma Chi, and he basically said to me, he goes, hey, man, I see what you're saying. We did some homework. I don't believe you did anything wrong. It's fine. You're not going anywhere, blah, blah, blah. And I go to leave the conference room. Thank you, guys. I'll watch this out more closely going forward. And as I'm getting ready to leave, he goes, and by the way, we're not going to really watch your loans you turn in going forward. And I went, I wasn't even thinking about that. But that just told me they're going to watch my loans going forward. So basically, they started scrutinizing everything I did. The head underwriter at the time was scrutinizing some of my documents, and they were more from ignorance than they were from me creating anything to make up. And sure enough, I go to sit down with this new processor. People were quitting the place at the time because there just wasn't a lot of
business.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of business, but they didn't like the way things were being ran, and so a lot of them quit. And I said, they called me to meet them one afternoon, and I went up there, and he said to me, he goes, first thing I said to him was like, look, I know things are falling apart, but I'm not going to leave. I'm going to hang in there. And he goes, well, unfortunately, you're not. Unfortunately, we heard some news. You talked to the processor about something, and this is your last day. I need to we had pagers.
Yikes.
Yeah, and I was shocked. I was like, I thought I was going to get out of the business, and I'm glad I didn't because I've met some great people over the years. I have so many dedicated realtors, but so when they fired me, I came home and it was in our first house. I remember telling your mom, like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what to do. Da 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 da.
So she's pregnant right now at the time, or you already had?
No, B was already here.
Okay.
And so Independence Mortgage, another statewide mortgage.
You were literally a child. I can't believe being my age and having a kid. Like, you were literally 26.
I was so hurt because they accused me of something I did not do with intent to create fraud, which is what they did.
And then since then, it was like already, they just weren't trusting you.
They weren't. And I was done. I hated them. Of course, they ended up falling apart not long after that because everybody just didn't like the way things were being run and went downhill from there. But so I went to Independence Mortgage. Sim Sutterby, it was the boss, and before they hired me, he called one of the lower management guys over at Princeton Financial, And the guy told him, that guy was a Sigma Chi as well. They were all older. They were older guys. And he told Mr. Sutterby, basically told him that they ran me off. He said, I don't think Jackie did any of that. I think he was inexperienced, and we just didn't give him the training. And he admitted that to Mr. Sutterby. And I started working for Sim Sutterby, and I'll never forget this, because back then we had to go out and talk to realtors. We had to knock on doors.
That's crazy, going door to door.
Yeah, you're cold calling.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of that, and I'll never forget, he goes, Jackie, I want you to go to Claremont. There's a lot of business going on. And I'm like, Claremont, okay. And I didn't go for like 2 weeks. And we're in a meeting. He goes, tell me about Claremont, Jackie. How'd it go work out? You go and met some realtors? And I went, I didn't go. And he chewed me out in front of everybody. Chewed me out. And I was embarrassed. So literally the meeting was over in that morning, and I drove to Claremont, and I got 3 loans that day. I felt so bad. I was like, damn, Sim Sutterby knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, 2 weeks is a long time to not have gone. Like,
yeah, it was.
You were just twiddling your thumbs at your
desk.
desk.
He was smart. It worked out. I got some business, and so I worked there for a couple of years, and he eventually was replaced by Mark Young, who was another one that really inspired me. God rest his soul. I went to his funeral a couple of years ago. Just a sweet man. He was a fun man. He was the kind of guy that would take us out to, we'd go to happy hour bars, and he'd pick up the tab, and we'd eat and drink and have a good time. And we did that every Friday. It was so much fun. Like I said, God rest his soul. I love that man. He was just a good guy. Sim Sutterby was good to me too. I mean, he defended me and really taught me a lot about the mortgage business. But anyway, I followed Mark Young to go over to South Trust Bank.
South Trust?
Yeah, which was based out of Birmingham, Alabama, which I loved. Like
your home country, your home state.
Yeah, but I had some stuff from South Trust. Like I had a pen and other things that I'd take.
Already?
Yeah, because my parents banked there.
So okay.
So I started to work for them, and back then banks were like, they just didn't do a lot of mortgages in a certain way. What I mean by that, if it wasn't vanilla and it fit the guidelines to a T, they would turn it away. They just didn't want to do it. So it made it harder to close loans. And so I'd work for the mortgage lenders and banks, and Butler Mortgage from Kissimmee, 2 young guys, Harry Urban and Harry.
2 Harrys?
No, sorry. Harry and Howard. Harry Urban and Howard Shannon.
2 H's?
Yes. They own Butler Mortgage. I'll never forget, because he had called me and talked to me, come work for us, man. You make more money, because the split was higher for commission guys, and da-da-da. And I just quit South Trust and took the job as a mortgage broker. You're now a mortgage broker, not a bank. So, you difference between a banker and a mortgage broker. Mortgage broker is an independent office, and they sell their paperwork to lenders to fund the loan. So they don't actually fund the loan. They're like a broker in the middle. And so Butler Mortgage was doing well. They were kicking butt, and I went over there and found out what all their lenders and investors do. And I was shocked, because I was closing loans like crazy.
Why is this immediately remind me of Wolf of Wall Street, where he's like got fired and he's not liking his career, and then he goes and they're selling penny stocks, but they're like scamming people. Not that I think you're scamming people, not what I'm getting at, but just working on commission versus salary. Yeah. Well, because I thought being a loan officer, you were on commission, so you weren't at commission at the other job, and then you're working commission as a broker.
Yeah.
Interesting.
In fact, back then, here's the difference. Back then, whatever rate you sold, the pricing on the rate, you split with the office. So if you sold the loan at a higher rate, you got more money. So that incentivized to sell a higher rate, which is really unfair to consumers back then. And I get it. I get why it changed now, but it was harder, easier to get the loans done, because you had so many options to do it. And Harry and Howard were good men. They're still around. Howard still is in the mortgage business. Harry moved over to Tampa not a while ago, but those guys were great guys, inspiring. They had good families. But anyway, I'm my first year there, I put it in my head, I'm going to win Loan Officer of the Year. And I had not closed a lot of loans in a long time. And I just said, I'm being a Loan Officer of the Year. And I just loved it. So, I mean, literally kicked butt, man. And I went and just took loans and handed off the processor and went and got another them. I went hustling through Kissimmee and St. Cloud and getting loans in the door. And they were like going, dang, because they would do loans to make decent money. But I was going to close as many loans as I can. I want people to know we're great. And we were. Butler Mortgage had a great reputation. I think, they're still around. They were in Kissimmee.
Is that what your motivation is, though? Like, wanting to be the best? Is that where it comes from?
Well, I mean, if you're competitive,
Yeah.
you know, you like to compete and do anything. You want to win. So
Yeah.
yeah. And I just remember I was there 6 years, and I think first 4 years I won Loan Officer of the Year, and
Okay, humble brag.
Stewart. Oh my gosh.
It's sorry.
Stewart was the guy. He did a lot of loans too, but he got a builder in Poinciana to make him the main lender, and he was getting a ton of loans for new home builds, and he beat me just barely, beat me my 5th year, and
Just barely.
yeah. But I remember Harry Urban saying to me, he goes, man, you're trying to really go out and do a lot of loans is kind of inspiring me. We just did loans that made the money we want to make and move on. But I said, you know, I was having fun, and, you know, obviously getting a big check was fun. We got paid every 2 weeks, which is rare now. Most lenders get paid every month, whatever they closed the previous month. And you're capped now what your commissions you can make. Because the federal government said, hey, you guys need to be incentivized to help people instead of just trying to make a lot of money. And I understood that. I always tried to do both. I want to make more money, but also want to make sure that people are happy.
Right. When did they put those regulations in place?
I got to tell you a story. Some stories about lenders, borrowers I work with. You're going to find this really interesting.
Okay.
So, and you may know more about. So I met this tall guy late. It was 5:30, 6 o'clock. He wanted to meet me. And
you said tall?
He was really a tall guy.
Okay.
He was a tall black guy. I mean, it doesn't really matter. But he meets me in the conference room to discuss a loan because he found a house he wanted to buy. And during our meeting, he had, what is it when people have, like, what's it called? It's a disease when they're talking, they go,
Tourette's.
Tourette's. Okay. So I sit down with this guy, and he had the worst Tourette's of any person I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
No. You say you feel sorry for him. He didn't even think about that. He didn't think, but he was the kind of guy that was like, I would go, okay, what rate are you looking to do? What, how much money you want to put down? You know, that kind of thing. And he just starts going, ha, ha, ha.
Right.
And he does it for like 2 minutes.
And you don't know what to do. Yeah.
2 minutes. So I'm sitting there going, hey, okay.
Yeah.
I'm nodding, just waiting. Finally, he'd stop and answer my question, and I'd go discussing again, and he'd do that again. We were there 2 hours. Now, here's the funny part. He literally called me the next day and said, I'm not using you. I found a better lender. I was like, oh my gosh. I was so kind and whatever. I'm sure the next day rates had maybe dropped and they gave him a better rate because rates change every single day.
Yeah.
So you get a rate quote today, it could get better tomorrow. But there's rules about locking in and all those things that are involved with making a loan application. And so anyway, long story short, that was a funny story to me because I'm like going, I got a little mad and I said, whatever. It probably would have been a hard loan to get through, not because of him, but I mean, because of communicating with him. If we need docs or something, you know, it was tough. But again,
I know, I can even imagine having Tourette's. It's so hard.
Because I'd never dealt with that before. So I was like, you know, I was trying to be kind because I didn't want to.
No, right, but you've never experienced it before, so you're like, what do I do? Like, do I ask if you don't want to bring it up, you know?
No, at all.
Yeah,
at all.
I knew someone too. She had like really low grade Tourette's though, but I remember I would notice that she like kind of had a tick, like she would make this certain face.
Yeah.
And I never brought it up, and then I found out through a friend that she has Tourette's. Yeah. Crazy. And it would get worse when she was tired. You can take medication now for it, and some people with Tourette's like. Well, I'm not like a big Tourette's expert, but I know sometimes you'll like say your tics.
Right. Yeah.
You'll like say things you don't mean to say.
Right.
Like repeat a bunch of words.
Yep. Yeah, it's a bad disease, and I felt sorry for him at first, but then the more he communicated with me, he didn't care he had this thing.
Yeah.
He's like,
well, because he lives with it, you know.
Yeah, he's telling me, you get your act together, my act's together, you know. Do this for.
Well, that's not his fault, though.
Oh, I know, but it didn't affect him mentally to think this is affecting his communication.
He's like, I'm working with someone else.
I was quite impressed with the guy, what he was doing. So it was interesting, and so that was fun. And then, of course, you know, over the years, the many years, I worked with different realtors, different appraisers, just good people. So I went from Southwest to Butler Mortgage, and then after I left Butler Mortgage, I started my own little firm, American Nationwide Mortgage. It was a.
You started it?
No. American Nationwide Mortgage was a company, but you became a contractor with them. So basically, you got paid everything you made for the whole office, but you had to give them like $250 per loan.
Okay.
It was a simple process, but you made all the money. You had to pay your own bills for your office. Christine Richards was my processor. Cindy Wold was my was the receptionist at the front door,
Uh-huh.
and I end up bringing over Harry. Oh my gosh, not Harry. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, people. I forget names just because of my surgery I had. But
It's okay. They know who they are if they're watching.
yeah, a Spanish guy from Cuba. He came over and worked with me, and
A Cuban man from Cuba.
We were open for maybe 3.5 years, and then guess what's coming?
What?
The market crash in 2008.
Oh, the big crash of 08.
It was scary because
Yikes.
everything fell apart. Mortgages went in the toilet because we had a thing called subprime lending. So these were higher risk loans, and they did every loan in the market. I had people come up to me, and if they had an LLC and a credit score minimum, they gave them the loan. These companies gave them the loan. They didn't care. They did what's called a 2-year mortgage ARM. So what would happen after the 2 years, the rate would go anywhere. It could go through the roof. So they start at 6%, but it could go to 18% in the second year. So that started happening. People couldn't afford it. That banks started folding because people couldn't make the payment.
Right.
And instead of negotiating with the borrowers, which they should have done, but so many people had invested, and it's a whole.
It was a mess to summarize it up.
Because I went from closing 3-4 loans a week minimum, as a mortgage broker and my own office, minimum 3 to 4 loans a week, to 2 or 1 loan a month.
Right.
And you're being commissioned, so now you're going, oh my gosh. So I closed my office down because I got an offer to go work for Seaside Bank, which is still functioning. Seaside's still around.
I remember. I was 8 during the crash of.
Right, because what they did, they gave me a salary plus a commission, which really helped because I was making zero to make a salary. So I went over there. They were a big bank. They were a higher end bank that dealt with higher end clients, and so we had to grow things because it was hard, it was tough, but certain banks are committed to mortgage, and certain banks it's just a side thing to give a client an offer, and I don't think Seaside even has a mortgage department anymore. I mean, I'm not trying to broadcast false information, but I think everybody quit because they didn't like doing mortgages over there. They were bought out by a bigger bank that does have a mortgage department. So Seaside probably still refers people to that side of it.
Okay, yeah.
But, so went to Seaside, and we started doing some interesting things, which started me. Seaside Bank is a community bank, and I started working for nothing but community banks. And that was, oh my gosh, I figured it's been, 15 years ago. And it was, so what I mean by that is we fund and close our own loans on every file we close, but we have investors like U.S. Bank, FBC, other lenders, banks like that we sell the loan to after we close.
Right.
So we start doing some crazy stuff, like where most people will go and apply and put a down payment. We do things outside the box, where if somebody's putting 50% down and they may have other challenges financially, at 50% down, we find a way to get the loan done. Because that makes, if they go bad, the bank's still going to be okay because they can resell the home and absorb their losses or their money.
I feel like I'm in a lecture right now. I'm like taking notes. I'm like, okay.
Well, I wanted to talk about mortgage business because I love it. It's been something I've enjoyed for 35 years. There's been some hard times and tough times, but I've tried everything I can to make sure the clients are happy and they're getting what they want. Most of them have been happy. Some of them haven't been. There's been some that didn't like something I did. And deep down, I get they feel that way because of something I did, but I did it because I was trying to save them not getting approved. It may have made their rate higher, but they had other issues to work on. So, I've tried to do it with everybody. Now that, again, I worked for Seaside, then I left Seaside and went to work for, gosh, I forget already. Seaside.
I'm trying to think of all the places. You worked at Iberia Bank. You worked at.
Oh, no. This is funny. So.
You scared me.
So I was working for Seaside, and their mortgage department was changing. No offense, nobody's going to see this that worked there, but see our podcast. But there was a girl they put in as our manager, and she was a banker. She knew a lot about banking, but nothing about mortgages. So she tried to run things as a bank, and it just hurt mortgages. Everybody started quitting. I was hanging in there because I knew one of the head guys really well. I'm not going to mention names at the bank, and I hung in there, and I was the biggest producer, largest producer in the mortgage side. It wasn't a lot, but I was the producer. And I remember they telling me that they hired me a processor that worked part-time. She worked from 8 to noon. And I'm like going, I need a processor that's going to do my loans all day because I'm bringing these loans in.
Right.
And she's not really, she's getting mad at me because she wouldn't talk to me after 12. She'd shut on me done. So I went and talked to management and said, we got to change this, man. This is crazy. And they said, you can't call her anymore after 12. And they were lecturing me. I'm like, these people don't want me to close loans. This is crazy. And so I became a bit of a mean guy. I started.
Why wouldn't they want to hire someone full time to help you bring in more money?
I don't know.
I'm confused.
I still don't know. So
they didn't want to pay for her or something.
I went and talked to management, and they said, we'll work on this and let you know. I'm like, they're not getting it. They're not giving me the response I thought they would.
Yeah, you could just feel that they were not going to do anything about it.
And I'm thinking they want to get rid of the mortgage department. So I just walked across the street, and one of my guys that I worked for knew before, because he was the manager at Seaside, and he ended up getting a bigger position and moved on to another bank. I went and talked to him, and I'll never forget this. He goes, you're hired. Because he knew the numbers I did. And he's like, you're hired. You can start tomorrow. And I'm
no
like,
way.
Yeah, man.
And they were across the street from this bank?
Yes. They were across the street. Old Florida
So
National Bank.
You had to show face? Like,
yes. And I went over there and loved
building?
it. Loved all the loan officers.
You worked there for so long.
I know Kerry Berman was the manager there, and I loved Kerry. He's a very incentive guy, inspiring. He taught me a lot of stuff when I worked for him, and so it's funny because he just laughed. He goes, "They're not keeping you there." He knew the business I did because I worked for him at Seaside originally. So he goes over there. I follow him over there, and we had a great time. Did a lot of good loans. I had a lot of people follow me over there because they had such a great reputation as a community bank. They would look and do things maybe outside the box if it made sense, which is what all community banks do. And so the Old Florida got bought out by
Iberia?
Look at you.
I just said that. I remember.
Wow.
I remember seeing your business cards.
Yes. So I was working at Iberia. I worked for a year. They're a big lender, and I didn't really like some of the things they did. The bigger the lender, in my opinion, of being a loan officer, the big lenders, they want things to come in the door that are black and white, vanilla.
Okay.
They very rarely do things outside the box.
Not like your community bank.
Right. And in my opinion, you look at somebody and their need, there's things you can do that protect the bank and make sense for them to get the loan. And they wouldn't, the bigger lenders wouldn't do that. So Iberia was a good bank, don't get me wrong, but they wanted vanilla Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loans, which is the loans you can sell.
Why do you think that is, though?
Because it's a clean, easy thing. If you do a loan that's outside the box, that we did those at Old Florida. Like I said, we do what's called a cross-collateral bank. Cross-collateral loan. So let's just say you have a house that you own that you need to sell before you can buy the next one.
Yeah, okay.
We will literally put a lien on your house for the amount we need for your down payment on the one you're buying if you qualify with still the payment.
Okay.
You know? And so you don't have to sell your house. We can turn around and close the loan, and then when your home sells, we apply those monies to the loan and we adjust the payment to the lower loan amount.
Nice.
So that's something nobody else does. None of the big banks do it. I'm not going to mention names, but big banks don't do it. But community banks, I think we're the only ones that do it. So let me catch you up. So we left. Oh my gosh, it's almost 30 minutes. So
don't worry about it. It's our time. It's our show.
That's true. That's true. We don't have a producer telling us to.
No, we don't.
So I left. I worked for Iberia for a year, and then Kerry Berman goes over to a new bank, First Green, and says, follow me here. And I was like, I didn't want to work for a big lender anymore. First Green Bank was a community bank.
Bear ran back in the background. Sorry.
That's all right. At First Green Bank, was a local community bank, and I worked there for 2 years for him. Learned a lot about, First Green Bank. We were no documents. We're all about solar power and just being great for the
world, the globe.
Yes. But so
you're going to say economy, but the ecosystem?
Yeah.
Is that the word you're looking for?
Yeah. I thought I was a big dog over there because I literally had an office on like the 11th floor with a big view of downtown. Yeah. So I would take pictures and send them to my fraternity brothers. I'm like going, you're a big dog. I'm like,
he's in the Penti, the penthouse.
Yeah, really. We only have 3 loan officers that work there. So
that
we all
building
have that.
is still there.
Yeah, because
I see it.
Well, Seacoast bought us out. And I worked there for 2 years, and Seacoast bought us. And I said, I'm not going for a big bank again. And I quit the day we got bought out and left there to go to Cogent Bank, which is another really good community bank. And
You were.
yeah. Well, when you're a loan officer, they change things all the time. On certain banks will change things and what they want to loan money to. So when they do that, it could kill what you're producing, and so your production gets cut in half or even worse. And so those things happen because they go, hey, we've got too many construction loans, or we got too many portfolio loans, or those kind of things on our books that we don't want anymore. Well, guess what? As a loan officer, you could lose your commission. You can, because you'll cut your production in half.
Right.
And so we followed and went over to Cogent Bank. They were a good bank. Those people were really good. They're still a good bank. I own stock in that bank because I wanted to invest in these banks that I work for. And of course, we're 6 years in. These guys, because a whole department from First Green went over there, and Felipe Ferreira, my boss now, good man. He's a good man. I do love him. We butt heads sometimes, but I love you, Felipe. But
that's the name of the game.
Yeah. So we go to Cogent. We're doing great. Everything's going great. And then they decided they want to cut back on some of the loans that we were doing. And I was like, are you kidding me, man? And they changed up some, which is not knocking it. People, lenders, banks do that because they need to focus on other things, and it happens. So we left there and went back to the Ken LaRoe, which is a good man.
I know that name.
That owned First Green Bank.
Use that name.
Yeah, I'd tell the stories about. He was so helpful to me when I had my brain surgery. But anyway, he literally started a new bank. He had a 3-year non-compete after we sold to Seaside Bank, Seacoast Bank. Sorry, there was 2 C's I worked for.
No, I would do that too.
And so they started another bank, which is Climate First Bank, which is where I work now. And we went and talked to them, and they hired our whole department.
And the rest is history.
And the rest is history. So I've been there a little over 2 years. We are doing well. Our bank, that bank, and I'm not, this is our podcast. I'm not trying to sell anything, but that guy, that bank, we started my first year, 2 years ago. We were worth, I think what is capital value or whatever, it was $68 million. We're now 2 years in, effective as of January. I've been there 2 years. January, we're now over $1 billion.
Wow.
$1 billion in 2 years, people.
That's
just amazing.
Crazy.
And that bank cares about the community. They care about the people who come in. I mean, we're all about the rainbows.
Yeah.
Yep. We're all about
the rainbows.
We're all about taking care of our our community as a whole.
Climate first.
Yeah. And
you're about
we're big on solar. We're all digital. We pay some of the highest interest on deposit accounts in the world, in the country. We're the fastest growing bank in the country. We just voted on that. And like I said, I love it. We do cross collateral loans out. We do FHA, VA. We do all these loans outside the box or inside the box. Like I said, I've been there 2 years. Good people. Just
y'all
a lot of good.
Y'all got to build a big high rise downtown.
Yes, I've got some of the best realtors I've ever worked with. Best realtors. I could start spitting out names, but I'll forget some. I don't offend anybody. But really, builders.
You know who you are.
Yeah, you know who you are. I love you guys. And I'm not just loving you because you give me business. You're good men, good women, good people. And I enjoy that a lot, working with you guys. And so that's made my job just really, really good, man. And I mean that. I mean, right now, if we've done loans in the last year, I love you because you're just friendly people, and I like when you come back around. We do more business because we do construction, we do portfolio, we do FHA, VA, we do Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, all the loans in the market.
I can't believe you've only worked there are you sure you only worked there for 2 years?
2 years.
2022?
Yes, that's when I came over.
So we're coming up on 3.
Yeah, it was a little crazy at first.
I feel like you've been there so much longer. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's been a good ride. So 35 years. I'm hoping to retire in 5 years.
Fingers crossed.
Yep. But if I don't, I can still hang in there. I still have the energy to do it. I still have a lot going on right now. We just hired 2 big producers, and they seem like good guys. I like them so far, and I just talked to them over the phone in our Zoom call. They think they're going to just run me out, but they ain't. I'm going to do some loans too, boss.
How you... Sorry, I need to come back to my mic. I've been turning my head towards you. My neck is hurting. I need to use my massager later. No, it's not your fault. It's my neck. But something you didn't talk about is how it can be quite stressful to be working on full commission.
It is.
Right.
Well, listen, it's commission because I care about my borrowers, not so much the money. I mean, I got to get paid, but
yeah, but that doesn't hurt.
No, it hurts, but it hurts me more when a borrower doesn't get what we're trying to fight for.
Right.
Even if there's a major reason that comes up why we can't do the loan. I hate it. You know, I told you this earlier in our podcast. You know, people say this was business related, not personal related, but it's all personal related. It's all, everything in this life is personal.
Right.
You know, so you've got to treat people the way you would want to be treated. If you stick to that demand, if you demand yourself to treat people like you want to be treated, talk to people like you want to be spoken to, you're going to be fine.
Right.
You know, I've had plenty of people that, you know, walked away, didn't like me. You know, they didn't like something I said. And, you know, that's fine. I mean, that's fine. I don't care if they realize it or not. I do care. But I also know that I'm being more favorable to them, whether they understand that or not. You know, I got to answer to one upstairs, you know, when it comes down to that, it's going to tell
Who's
me.
upstairs?
I don't mean my grandson or my wife. I mean God.
Yeah, Luca's real demanding
It's a long
lately.
stairwell. It's a long stairwell. It's long.
I was gonna say that I can't believe you. Well, first of all, there's so many things to say of what you said, but it's interesting that when there were places that people were leaving or unhappy with, you were like, "I'm gonna stick it out." Well, why was it that you wanted to stick it out, or did you just like want to keep? You were just doing well, so you wanted to keep your clientele. Like, why did you stay?
What do you mean stay?
There were two companies, I don't remember which two, but you were saying that they're going to shut down the mortgage department or something, and you were like, people were leaving because they weren't happy.
That was the trend that I saw. You know, back when I was younger at it, I didn't pick up on it like I thought I should. But you know, when they start making things harder to get through the system, either they've been gone through an audit through the government that said you fix this stuff, or we're going to take your whole bank down.
Yeah.
You know, they changed things. It may have not had anything I had to do with. And so they tighten up, and then of course they're not going to tell you that because you as a loan officer are going to lose money. You can't close, get a commission.
Right.
So a lot of those reasons are the same. I mean, you know, it's kind of interesting, some of that stuff. The lending stuff is interesting. I mean, I didn't say this when we started, but I should have, because this is kind of embarrassing for me. But my buddy Bud got me into the business to be a mortgage broker, and I had to take the test at the state to get licensed. I had to take it 2 times because I failed the first time.
Okay, 2 is not that bad.
Well, the thing about it is it's an easy test back then. It's way harder now. But I finally passed it, and it was really a crazy time because I was like, I can't pass the test.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Did you study?
I did. I studied, and I even took a course to do it, and that's when I passed.
Okay.
I finally took the course, and they dial in on the test, teach you, and I passed the test. But anyway, long story short, I knew it was going to be. I wanted to be faster.
The grind.
I could talk about it. I got stories. If I get permission from all the agents and builders that I do a lot of business with, I would mention their names, but I don't want to make anybody mad. But I just
The grind does not stop. Do you know what that means?
And one other thing that bothers me in this business. No, I know what you're saying.
I know, and you don't want to forget your thought. I'm just
yeah, no, I have to do that. I'm sorry.
I do the same.
One thing that I forgot it.
See, I do that too. I'm so sorry.
Oh, wait.
No, you're kidding.
No, I forgot.
Are you messing with me?
No. I forgot. It was something interesting.
You were saying one thing. There were names of people that I don't
mention their names. No. Well, I did in my early years. I had several realtors I worked with, and we did a lot of business together. And then all of a sudden, they will get another lender who comes in and going to pay them money or whatever, and they just drop me. And that's hard. It's hard. Yeah, it was a hard period, but the people I work with now are so good. They're smart, and I bust my ass for them. I do. I bust my butt for them to try to get all these loans done. And they're good people. I can tell they're just different. You know, back in the day, in the early day, you know, some of the agents I work with, and there's still a lot of them that have retired since back in that day that were good to me too, but they're not in the business anymore. But so I went and I want the people I work with, the realtors and builders, to know I care as much as you do to get these things done and make those people happy. That's all I care about, really. I don't focus on the money as much because in life, whenever you do a job, you want the job to make you happy.
Right.
If you do that and focus on that, the money will eventually get to you.
For sure.
You just got to focus on making yourself happy and doing something that will make you happy. And in my opinion, that does help the community, you know, which the job you just got will do that tremendously.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said that, though. I could never do a job. I've never been someone who can just be in a job for money. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of my friends thought they could do that, and they realized, like, in their first job that they could never do that.
Yeah.
You know, like, they want to do something they enjoy with the people that they enjoy doing. I personally want to do something that I know helps other people, whether it's kids, adults, whoever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's why I've worked with kids for so long, because working with kids is no joke. It's tiring, especially now I'm going to become a behavioral therapist and then hopefully a registered behavioral technician. And I'm working with kids on the spectrum that
I like it.
have like some hard behavioral stuff, you know?
Well, I wish I could mention my realtors' names because they're good in the communities they live in. They're good realtors.
Yeah.
They treat me extremely fair and know I'm working hard for them. Thank you, guys. I don't want to, you know, like I said, some people may not like it, but good people. Anyway, we got to go. It's a long time.
We got to go. I'm catching a flight tomorrow morning.
I know.
I'm driving the plane.
I'm supposed to see Trip Garner and Lynn Thrift this weekend. They're coming to visit me. I'm looking forward
exciting.
to it. Hopefully,
I'm glad someone can be with you while Mom and I are gone, keep you company.
I know. I'll be fine.
So you're not twiddling your thumbs on a Saturday evening.
I'll be fine. Don't worry.
He gets mad when I talk about him like he's a toddler.
I'm 61 years old. I think I know what to do. I know what to do.
I'm like, we'll get you a warm baba and your blankie while you're gone.
All right. Let's say goodbye.
I'm just kidding. Well, congrats on finishing Radiation. It's our 10th episode.
Yes. Love you.
We're on this journey we call life together.
Yes, we are.
Dearly beloved.
We're gathered here today. Yes. And so you guys have a great weekend. Happy Friday. We'll talk to you later, right?
Yeah, next Friday. We'll see y'all. Ready? Peace, love, and funk and roll. Yes. See you next week. Bye.
See you. Thank you.